Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 3, and in this video we are going to talk about understanding narratology thinking, a case in the genre of romance and horror stories. But before we get into the presentation, I would like to introduce the members of my group. They are Fira Yunika, Hafizh Fachriza Salam, Shadra Izza Azhari, and myself, Nugroho Septiajie. So, here is the concept map of case in romance and horror stories. We are going to talk about this concept map truly in the next slides. Romance. According to sociologists, romance is not really a universal feeling experienced by humans, but is formed in socio-historical context, and its form is a genre of romance stories. The repetitive story patterns in this genre will create a feeling of love or romance. So the genre becomes the model or structure that forms the feeling of romance. Indonesian modern literature, in essence, closely related to the idea of nationalism, which appeared in the early of 20th century. And these ideas are influenced by the Yas society. Sultan Takdir Ali Shahbana said that Indonesian modern literature is a mirror of liberation, namely liberation from traditional cultural values. At that time, the feeling of romance was described as a genuine feeling of love and detached from the political and economic interests of traditional societies. Jacob Sumarjo once compared the convention that applied in the early 20th century and 1980s. What he examined is the different patterns in the success or failure of a character's love affair. Romance genre can be divided into two categories. One, teen romance, and the second is adult romance.
Teen romance stories are seen as ideal type of romance genre because romance is so separate from marriage and sexual relationship. Romance is made independently or autonomous so that the term of true love appears. The authenticity of this love, which is often very much associated with intimacy, care, sacrifice, and willingness. Therefore, physically intimacy such as gaze, touch, hug, or kiss are strictly guarded so as not to fall into the fiction that have sexual connotation. Marriage here is also not the core of the story, but only a process that arises and develops from feelings of romance. So romance in romance stories is treated as something that lies between marriage and sexuality. If the romance genre contains a willingness element, the horror genre actually explore feelings of anger, hatred, and revenge. This genre shows the pathological aspect of love, namely possessiveness, domination, violence, hatred, and humiliation, all of which are based on fear. For example, fear of loss, fear of neglect, fear of torture, or fear of curse. All the complexity of fear are manifested by the appearance of a ghost. In addition, the boundaries between marriage, romance, and sexuality tend not to be separated in this genre. In the perspective of structural theory, horror stories can be understood as antithesis or the opposite of romance stories, in the sense that horror stories break through and break down the boundaries that have been outlined by romance stories regarding the relationship between marriage, romance, and sexuality. These two genres or other genres can be structurally interconnected with the existence of networks of intersexuality.
Now let's discuss about the short story copy analysis, page 39-43. We have divided the analysis of the short story into two parts. First, breaking down the basic element of the structure, and two, codes for rules of plot shaping. In the basic element in short story is plot. In plot, we have a central plot and subplot. In addition, the sequence codes of plot in rules of shaping include unbalanced state, alteration, and new balanced state. Now let's move to breaking down the basic element. Here we have 3 central plots and 9 subplots. The first central plot is when Ray got jealous over Hera's new boyfriend, and the second when Hera invited Ray to her wedding, and the last one when Ray mulled over his pathetic romantic fate. For subplot, the first one is after a week, Hera came to the cafe where Ray works and asked Ray to make her a coffee. The second one, Ray prepared Hera's request with full energy. Third, Ray recommended Hera to inhale the smell of coffee, and secretly, Ray wanted to hear a compliment from Hera. And next, Hera complimented Ray's skill in making coffee, and that made Ray happy. And then, after learned Hera got a new boyfriend, Ray made an extremely bitter espresso for himself. And 6, Hera came to the cafe again, and Ray talks that Hera got cheated again by her new boyfriend. But Ray was wrong. He learned that Hera was super happy that night. Then Hera asked Ray to make her a coffee. And the last one, Ray gave Hera a cup of bitter espresso. And for the codes of plot shaping, the first central plot when Ray got jealous over Hera's new boyfriend is an unbalanced state or an event that raises tension in the story. And the second plot when Hera invited Ray to her wedding is an alteration because this event is intended to change the situation in the unbalanced state. And this story ends with new balanced state or even that identical with the first balanced state but with new elements. And now let's look to the short story, copy and find information about central plot and subplots. In page 39, kamu datang berjalan santai melewati pintu kaca kafe. Aku terkesiap. Kehadiranmu sudah jadi kebutuhanku. Kali ini, saya ingin kamu yang memilihkan kopi untuk saya minum. Thus, high-quoted sentences are the subplot which contain information that shows after a week later, Hera came to the cafe and asked Ray to make her a recommendation coffee. The next one. Ada suplai energi yang membanjiriku. Untukmu, akan kukerahkan seluruh pengalamanku dalam hal meramu kopi. Tak lama kemudian secangkir kopi khusus siap tersaji. This paragraph is the second subplot. And the next one. Tunggu sebentar, sergahku. Coba dihirup dulu. Semoga kopi buatanku berhasil memukau. This is another subplot. And the next one. Kamu pembuat kopi terbaik yang pernah saya temukan. Ucapmu di salah seruputan bibirmu pada tubir cangkir. Wajahku langsung memanas, beruap kegirangan. Terima kasih. This is one of the subplots that shows Hera complimented Ray's skill in making a coffee and it made Ray happy. Now we come to the central plot. Aku pura-pura tak melihat kamu. Malas rasanya mendatangimu yang bermanja-manjaan dengan pria baru itu. The sentences are the information that affirms Ray got jealous over Hera's new boyfriend. Dan aku masih enggan menyambut lambaianmu, masih ragu mendatangi kalian sembari bertanya, mau pesan apa? Aku tidak mau kembali menyaksikan kamu bermanjaan dengan pria lain. Rasanya enak, membuatku ingin muntah. This is a part of the central plot. Dan ku buat secangkir espresso untukku sendiri. Espresso dengan konsistensi kekentalan di luar kewajaran. Rasa pahit langsung menjalar di setiap senti juga ribuan neuron sensorik di permukaan lidahku. This is another subplot. Kegiatan minum espresso pahit itu jadi aktivitas bagiku setiap kali kamu dan pria asing itu berkunjung ke kafe ini. This is still part of central plot. The sentences are giving a clue that Red drank an extremely bitter espresso for adjusting his heartbreak.
These subplots containing information about Hera came to the cafe an hour earlier than usual. Usually Hera would came to the cafe at 2 in the morning. Ray wondering if Hera got cheated again for the third time, because the last time Hera came to the cafe alone was because she got cheated by her boyfriend. The next is their conversation, that showing Hera was not sad at all. Instead, Hera was showing happy expression. The information in this paragraph is showing that Hera asked Ray to make her a coffee. While Ray made a coffee, he also wondering that usually Hera always came with sadness and bring a bad news, but this time he felt something different from her. The next is the subplot showing that Ray served a cup of bitter espresso for Hera, and their conversation is about Ray always served a delicious coffee whenever Hera came with sad feelings. But when Hera came with happiness, Ray made her a bitter coffee. The next is the center of plot, containing information that the actual reason why Hera came to the cafe an hour earlier and with happiness was because she was about to marry soon. She wanted to invite Ray to her wedding. Ray knew that this invitation was very important, and Hera wanted Ray to attend her wedding. The last central plot was showing that Hera walks away from the cafe while Ray pondering about his pathetic love life. Ray know that he was secretly fell in love with Hera, but Ray don't want to confess it. After he got the news that Hera was about to marry her boyfriend soon, Ray just have to accept everything that already happened. With that being said, the basic elements in short story Kopi structure, including 3 central plots and 9 subplots. The sequence codes of central plots are unbalanced state, is where Ray silently wishes to get closer to Hera, but Hera just busy with her boyfriend, which just make Ray more jealous. The next is alteration, is where Hera came to the cafe at 1 a.m. to give Ray her wedding invitation. And the last is new balance state, is where Ray pondering his pathetic romantic fate, accepted everything that happened, because after all this time he just secretly fell in love with her.
The conclusion. First, romance is not a universal feeling, but is formed in socio-historical context. Indonesian modern literature, in a sense, closely related to the idea of nationalism. Romance and horror genres are opposite genres. Second, the basic elements in short story titled Kopi structures include the 3 central plots and 9 subplots. The sequence codes of central plot are unbalanced state, alliteration, and new balanced state. Okay, thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.